Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm joined here by Dr. Amanda Garcia. My name is Chris Lloyd, and tonight we're going to be talking about Tulane SOPA's digital design program. So for those of you who are tuning in with questions, we'll have a Q&A portion here at the end. But otherwise, we'll hopefully cover all that content you guys are curious about. And then if there's something that pops up along the way, just use that chat or that Q&A function, and we'll make sure we cover it. So really briefly to go over our agenda, we're going to talk a little bit about Tulane SOPA's history, what we offer, specifically the digital design program, some of the ways that we help to support student success, and then we'll get into those nasty logistical pieces of how to apply, tuition and financial aid, and then we'll wrap back around to that Q&A. So as I mentioned before, I'm joined by Dr. Amanda Garcia.
Yeah.
She is the head of our digital design program. Can you tell us a little bit about your background?
Sure, absolutely. So I have a background in architecture, actually was my undergrad, and realized that I wanted to pursue something more in the digital arts after I went into the workforce. And so I went back and got my master's at SCAD in Savannah in graphic design. And after teaching graphic design in higher education for a few years, I realized that I had an interest in academics for administration and wanted to go back and learn more about curriculum and instruction and higher ed. So I got my PhD in curriculum and instruction. So that's a little bit about my background. I was at Texas A&M, Corpus Christi for about almost 18 years and just joined Tulane SOPA almost 2 years ago, exactly.
All right, well, thank you so much for joining us.
Of course.
So for those of you who've tuned in before, you've probably seen a little too much of me lately. My name is Chris Lloyd. I'm an admissions associate here. So for those of you that are prospective students where you're still evaluating, or maybe you want to get connected with an academic advisor or a program director, I'm the person that you're going to want to reach out to. So I'm going to share my contact information at the end of this session. But if you give us a call at our main line or you give us a call at our Elmwood line, you'll definitely be able to get a hold of me. So really briefly, I want to talk to you guys about our background here at Tulane SOPA. So for those of you that are in the G&O area or Southern Louisiana, you may have heard of Tulane School of Professional Advancement under the names of either University College, School of Continuing Studies. For those of you familiar with that, Tulane actually has had a commitment to continuing education for adults for over 130 years now. So Tulane was founded in 1834, and from there you started to see offerings that were geared more towards people in the community, and that really came to fruition in 1886, where you had those first adult education classes offered. So this was a way for Tulane to be able to offer really high quality education and access to some of our amazing professors and content experts like Dr. Garcia to people within our community. In 2017, we actually relaunched as a School of Professional Advancement. So part of that name change was also a change in some of the offerings that we had. So we worked with some of our external stakeholders and partners to develop programs that really reflect the needs of New Orleans as well as nationally. Part of that is launching online offerings, certificate programs, different ways that you can really interact with these fields. And one of them that's a really great example is our digital design program. So with the digital design program, you've got a lot of really great opportunities there. At the bachelor's level, you're looking at a combo of online and on campus. Most of our courses are going to be offered in that format for general classes here at SOPA. So your maths, your sciences, some of those core classes, they'll be offered in some combination of online or on campus. So for those of you who are maybe tuning in from somewhere else in the USA, or you might have transfer credits, you might be able to complete most of your coursework online. For the digital design program, you're going to be looking at a primarily on-campus experience right now, but as Dr. Garcia is going to get into a little bit later, there's room for growth and change in that. So with those of you who are working adults, you're going to find that our classes are offered days, nights, and weekends. So a really typical class would be something like what's going on now in the rooms next to us, where you've got a 6 p.m. to 8:50 class that's meeting once a week, or maybe a little shorter class that's running twice a week. The goal behind that is to really give people access at those times where classes may not traditionally be offered. So those daytime courses can be a little hard for people who are working, maybe people who are looking to update their skills, do a career change. So those night classes give you a little bit of flexibility. And then when you pair them with online coursework, it can help to really reduce some of that time commitment for you if you're someone where you have a lot of obligations like work, family, or those other things that really limit the ability for you to access that daytime class. So Dr. Garcia, I think for those people that are joining us right now by video, they probably don't know much about SOPA's digital design program beyond maybe what they've seen on the website or what they've seen out in the New Orleans area. Could you talk to us a little bit about the background and some offerings?
Yeah, absolutely. So in our digital design program, we have 3 tracks, and these tracks came to fruition based on industry research. So we really looked at what are the growth areas in the greater New Orleans area for the next 5 to 10 years, and looked at how do those align nationally, right? So in our research, we found 3 areas within digital design that emerged. One is graphic design, one is interactive and UX UI, and the other is game art and animation and virtual reality. So these are the 3 areas that we built tracks around. How we did that was we engaged with professionals in the community and elsewhere that are experts in these areas. So we pulled local game companies, game artists, directors, etc., together for the gaming track in particular, let's say. And we said, if you could go back to school today, what would you need to know, basically, to thrive in this field today and then beyond, right? So what are the skills that they see emerging? And that's how we built the programs. So everything that you see in those 3 tracks is super up to date, very, very current of what's happening in the workforce. And so we feel very confident that we are teaching our students, whether you're doing your bachelor's or post-bac, et cetera, things that will directly drive job placement after graduation.
I feel like something that you hit upon that we probably didn't express as directly as we should is the really dynamic quality of these programs, that they've grown and changed since they were initially created, so that you're not going into something that's outdated. You're going into something where you have faculty who are actively working in the field. So one that we really like to talk about is that game art and animation track, because I feel like that's such a rare offering that you see for schools like of Tulane's renown.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, people definitely don't associate Tulane with gaming, if you know, if there was one thing. But yeah, it's really interesting. We see that there's a lot of growth potential in the film industry, virtual reality industry, as well as animation and gaming industry here. And so that was definitely a focus for us. Yeah.
So for those of you who are watching and kind of wondering, what are the real differences between these tracks? Could you sort of guide us through what the key differences are and what the content will be?
Yeah. So our graphic design track is what you would think of as traditional graphic design. So we are looking at using Adobe software, Adobe InDesign, Illustrator, Photoshop, obviously. We're also getting into a little bit of motion graphics and After Effects, animating typography. You're going to have really great foundations in history of graphic design, typography, once again, your software courses, and then we'll also give you a great foundation in letterpress and tactile skills as well. And we have a new Foundations of Art class where students are going to be able to explore more illustration, drawing, color theory, etc., and then take those skills into their other courses. You'll also learn about copywriting, which we found from our industry research that employers are really looking for copywriting skill sets in students, and that's something that they're not really seeing. So we're building 2 brand new classes in copywriting, and those will be online, 100% online. John Carr is actually teaching those. He lives in Seattle, so it's really fun, and he's a copywriter by trade. And so he'll be offering those online, and once again, that's all informed by our industry professionals. So you can expect to have classes like packaging and poster design, you know, graphics for social media, etc. So the graphic design track, you know, creating logos and branding, all of those things you would traditionally think of as graphic design, that's what that track would be for you if that's what you're interested in. The interactive track, that encompasses app design, web design, social media strategy, that sort of thing. In that class, you'll be using like Adobe XD, you'll be using Spark, you'll be learning Premiere, After Effects. So anything that you would need to tell like a visual narrative, you'll be learning that. You'll also be creating a ton of app concepts, you'll be prototyping, working prototypes. We also have a class called Interactive Technologies that will be online as well. The other classes so far that I mentioned are in person. I'm only pointing out the ones that are specifically online. But there's a new class called Interactive Technologies, in which, once again, we heard feedback from students and the industry saying we would like our design students to know a little bit about the back end of like programming an app, you know, for iPhone or Android. Like, what are those things that we need to know? Just to be able to speak to the developers, right? So once it leaves our hands in the development stage, it then goes to a developer on the back end to do all the coding to make the app actually work on your smartphone or smart device. So we are creating a class right now, like I said, that'll be 100% online, that addresses those concerns. So when you finish on the interactive track, you will be able to go into companies locally as well as nationally, where you could be a UX designer, UI designer. You could be working in web design, etc. So that's a really, really fun and emerging field that's constantly changing. So we're constantly adding classes like this new one in interactive technologies. And then the third track is our game art and animation track. And that is, game art and animation are two segments of the overall gaming industry. So I'm a graphic designer, and when I came into this program and we found that this was an area of growth, I had to learn everything I could about this field because I knew nothing. So from a graphic design perspective, I could tell you what is working for a game that I don't know anything about games, right? That's like way above me. So we consulted with the industry professionals, and I learned that there's many different facets to the gaming industry. So you could go into art, you could go into modeling, you could go into animation, you can go into world building. There's specialists in all of those areas, and then game design is a whole nother field, right? And so our program here is specifically training students to go into either the art side or the animation side. So if you're somebody who would like to learn more about game design itself, like the strategy behind games, gamification, that sort of thing, this is not the right program, right? So we're really the back-end coding. Although we do teach code that occurs in Maya, ZBrush, etc., we're not focusing on the back-end coding side, although we do have those courses as electives in our IT department. That is not something that we're teaching, but we're really focusing on developing for concept art, developing very detailed illustrations for characters. I know we have a guest tonight who's really interested in illustration, and so this would be something that would appeal to her, I'm sure. So developing the art side, how the world is going to look by hand, digitizing that, taking that into Photoshop, bringing that into ZBrush, bringing that into Maya, all of these different technologies to take your sketch into an actual working character, right? It's really, really interesting. Once again, I'm learning so much about it every semester. And then we also focus on the animation track. So once you have that character, how do you then animate that character? How do you rig the character? How do you weight the character so things move on the right joint? It's really, really interesting. And then we teach students how to take that into what's called an engine. So the engine, apparently, once again, not my cup of tea. So if this is something you're interested in, I will connect you with the right people. I'm telling you what I've learned. But the engine apparently takes your world, takes your characters, all the textures, cut light, all that sort of thing together into one spot to make the game actually play. So our genius game faculty are teaching you all of those things. I'm always amazed every time I see their projects. They're amazing. So, and we have great technology to support all of that. So those are the, the three different tracks. The two that we tend to get a lot of students who are interested in kind of both is graphic design and interactive design. We're seeing more and more interactive designers in the field that are expected to know things about graphic design. Same the other way around. We see plenty of graphic designers who are expected to know about interactivity, social media, strategy, all those things. So if you're somebody who's interested in both, we can customize the coursework for you so you can take a couple of extra interactive classes if you're a designer, or if you're an interactive student, you can take a few more design classes. Really, we want to know what are your goals after graduation, and then we can kind of tailor your degree to meet those goals.
I think you hit upon a couple of really interesting themes there, and I want to make sure I really call them out for people who are joining us. One of those is you readily admitted, like, game art, not my background.
Not my thing, but I think it's really cool.
But within that, you also, I think, express something that's really important at the core SOPA, which is we bring in people from outside of our own university, our own network, and we bring in people who have those skills and can help our students grow. And so the composition of our faculty and the fact that we have people who are coming from the actual working world in that field and are able to translate that experience, I think that's a really unique quality of SOPA.
Absolutely.
We'll get into a little more depth about some of our faculty composition here, but that was something I wanted to make sure I called out for the people who are joining us, because getting that kind of responsive feedback from the industry is a rarity. So when you have a program that's built with that outside consultation that actively grows and changes based on the needs of the industry, you're getting something really powerful out of that, because you're getting something that reflects the needs of the industry and not just whatever the
academia thinks.
Exactly.
Exactly. Our program is very nimble, right? So we've designed it, or I've designed it that way. So our classes are able to evolve and shift. So we have these industry advisory boards that we meet with every semester. And we say, what are the new trends? What are you seeing? Look at our student work. Do you think there's other faculty in the area that you think we should be hiring, right? Like we constantly consult with them to be able to edit and change and shift and add things and take away things, et cetera, to the program. So it's always very current. Yeah.
So for those of you that are listening, you're probably wondering, well, what are the pathways I can take to actually get through there?
Mm-hmm.
So one of the offerings that we have is a Bachelor of Arts in Digital Design.
Yep.
So in Bachelor of Arts, what's a typical sort of student that's coming into that program?
Yeah, so we have a few different students doing the bachelor's. We have our traditional high school student who's graduated and decided they want to go into these fields. It's not offered anywhere else in Tulane, so we're the only program at Tulane that has these different offerings. So if it's something you want to do and you're coming to New Orleans or you live in New Orleans, you would apply directly through SOPA, not through Tulane, just to make that clear. So if you're coming into this program as a high school student, you have to complete 120 hours. You'll be matriculating at least 2 design classes every semester, I would like to say. That way you constantly stay engaged. You're taking your core coursework like your English, humanities, etc., with design coursework consistently. It's about a 4-year program. We also have students who already have bachelor's degrees, but have decided to change their careers. So they may be 25 years old, they might be 35 years old, right? And they may be working in the marketing field and realize, man, I got a degree in marketing 6 years ago, from another school or our school, and I really like what the designers are doing, and that's where my passion is, right? And so they've decided to come back and get a second bachelor's in design because they just love it, or maybe they're in the ad industry, or they're a copywriter, or whatever, or they're a designer that realizes my skills need to be improved in the interactive track, or I really want to move into that. So if you're coming in with a bachelor's degree, we can accept up to 60 hours. I know we're going to get into this a little bit more, but we can accept up to 60 hours of your previous credits if they all transfer in, and we can look at all of that with you. But a best case scenario, you would need to take 60 hours here on site. So that really, cuts back on the time you would need. So those are really our 2 different students, our, brand new college freshmen out of high school mixed in with our professionals. We also have students right now. We have a couple students that used to be chefs who decided, they never went to college. They were working at these amazing restaurants and realized, like, I can't do this anymore. I want a professional career, and have decided to come back and get their bachelor's for the first time. I have a couple of students who were in K through 12 education. They were teachers and love the creative aspect of what they were doing in the classroom, and have decided now to come back and pursue a bachelor's. So you're in a classroom of 18-year-olds fresh out of high school who have great fresh ideas and that really great energy. You're in there with 28-year-olds who somebody was a teacher for the last 5 years out of her or his undergraduate program, and you're in the same classes. And the synergy is really, really interesting, the way those 2 different audiences support each other and push each other. It's just the coolest thing to see. The school I came from, we didn't have this model. And this is just a really interesting dynamic. And both sides, the younger students and the older students, I say older, they're like younger than me, the older students, they just both love it. It's a really interesting dynamic, for the bachelor's.
Yeah, that diversity of experience and background, you really see it reflected on the walls and the hallways here inside of our design labs, where you're seeing all those different perspectives really come to life through people's work. And I think that, from my perspective, it really adds a more interesting experience for the student.
Absolutely.
You get to learn a little bit more about some of the potential groups maybe you haven't interacted with before, people from different backgrounds, to where it can help to improve the quality of your work. And one of the things Dr. Garcia kind of hit on earlier was the interdisciplinary nature of digital design, of marketing, of all of these different fields that all kind of shape the visual aesthetic that we see every day. So those of you in the New Orleans area, you see that playing out in the advertising campaigns for our local sports teams, for our events, for any of these things, every billboard that you pass, even Dudley DeBosier and people who are Morris Bart, they have someone directing that visual aesthetic. Not that we necessarily want to tie ourselves to them, but the idea is there that you have people who are providing you with an opportunity to really display your work. And you see it in a pronounced way in the GNO region. And so for those of you that are local, you really get an opportunity to see our students work out in the world here. And some of that is a concept that I really love personally, design for good. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. So design for good is embedded in our mission for the program. So in all of our 3,000 and 4,000, so that's typically like junior and senior level classes, we have what we call a service learning component. So we are working in each of those classes, at least one project. All faculty members have to find a community group, a nonprofit, whatever it might be, a startup, maybe a small mom and pop business that, you know, could really change their family history by doing well, right? And we support them with design. So it could be in the interactive classroom, it could be in the graphic design classroom, but you are doing work for groups like the YMCA or the Women's Shelter or, you know, XYZ Foundation. I mean, there's so many different, the Coalition for Coastal Louisiana, we just did one last semester. Really, really interesting stuff. And it could be event graphics, it could be redoing their branding, whatever it might be. But by the time you leave, you will have at least probably 4, maybe 6, depending on how many classes you've taken in upper division as electives, real world projects from nonprofits or those sorts of things in your portfolio with all the other pieces that you've been developing in your portfolio. So yeah, our service learning and our commitment to design activism and design for social change is very, very important, especially in our New Orleans community, where we're trying to sort of build up our community, right? And so we're really able to use design as a change agent. And that's one of our missions as part of our program.
And some of the other really interesting things I think about when I think about our digital design program are some of the interactions that our students actually get with the industry. And I probably talked about this to death, but
yeah,
the Addy Awards,
yeah,
our students were recently recognized at one of the biggest industry events for the New Orleans region. And they swept the student awards with all but one award going to our students. And I don't mean this in the sense of there were 3 awards and we got 2 out of 3.
No. There were 22 awards, and we got 21 of them.
So I think you probably understand why I wanted to bring that up.
You know,
it's
pretty amazing.
It's a great example of that our students are doing impactful, high-quality work. If they're going up against every other program in the region.
Not to mention, a few of those went on to compete nationally with School of Visual Arts, with RISD, with SCAD, like all of these other great art programs that we all love and we probably were a part of, right? Now our students are competing at that level, which is really interesting.
Yeah, when you think about that level of accessibility that our students have to be able to make a career change or maybe start fresh out of high school and go into a program like this, where you have that opportunity where you might not have had that at the kind of schools we're competing against at these national events.
I can tell you from attending those schools, we have way more community engagement than they do.
And I think you really did a great segue there for me. That community engagement really involves both the people in the community as well as the people in that working community, in that network of professionals, and getting access to that network of professionals is really important. And one of the ways that I've seen digital design program really drive that for students is bringing in industry professionals to talk. And we actually have a few events coming up where you'll really get that opportunity to see our students engaging with people who are working at high levels in the industry. So for those of you who are viewing it in the PowerPoint right now, that's those annual designer talks. That's people from the industry who are coming in and talking to our students one-on-one. That's maybe helping to review student portfolios or projects and giving real feedback. So
all of our faculty are really involved and plugged in the community, in the greater community, Baton Rouge, like traveling beyond New Orleans as well. And so, you know, we like to prepare our students for that pressure that they will be experiencing after graduation, whether it's applying for jobs, interviewing for jobs, or just having to defend their work in the professional landscape. So in our courses, especially the sophomore up to senior level courses, we bring in industry professionals into the final presentation. So everybody typically has like final projects in their courses, and we bring in those game artists to see the final projects and to give critique. We bring them into our Design Studio 3 classes, our packaging class, I mean, all of them. And they're able to get real feedback from real designers live time in those courses. It's pretty amazing.
For some of you who might be already in the industry or in a parallel industry, I think it's really hard to convey how rare that opportunity is, to where you're almost getting like a pre-interview by the people who could potentially be hiring you, because they've seen your work, they've seen how you respond to the feedback, the way you present yourself, and then they also have that frame of reference of knowing Dr. Garcia, knowing our faculty, and knowing the quality of education that our students are receiving. And I think that's a really rare thing that you know, we should be celebrating. You know, our students are getting an opportunity to really actively shape their career prospects while still enrolled and not doing things like through an internship,
Right.
but through actual service learning or through their coursework.
Absolutely.
So you're not going out and, working in someone's office and learning there on the fly. You're learning with a strong academic foundation, informed by professionals who work in private, public, government fields. And then you're also learning skills that are regularly refreshed. So that kind of dynamic quality is, I think, one of the really important parts. And I don't know if I'm really, if I'm really like conveying the depth of that. And one of the ways that I think that we really help students to achieve that success is with our student support. And some of that we've already hit on, talking about, bringing in people from the working and professional community who come in and help to give student feedback, help to give student reviews. And then also through things like the very structure of the digital design program with lower level and upper level reviews. Could you talk to our viewers a little bit about that?
Yeah. So we have a number of things kind of built in for student success. Retention is very important to us. We want to make sure that if you start the program, you finish the program, and you feel supported all the way through. So one way that we have these like checkpoints throughout your time here is by having a lower level review after your second block of classes. If you've gone to the website and gone to degree plans, you've seen the blocks that I'm talking about. So the first 2 blocks include about 4 courses. You go up for what we call our lower level review. It's very simple. You're creating like a binder of all the work you've created, a little form that you fill out. We review it as a faculty, and we give you feedback. We make sure that you're ready to move on to that next mid-level blocks of courses. If you don't pass the review, we recommend electives you can take to help work on your pieces, and you can resubmit it, right? And then once you get past block 4, you go up for what we call our upper level review. And our upper level review includes a live presentation of your work to all the faculty. A little scary, but once again, you've practiced these presentation techniques for like 2 years. You're going to be fine. And we review your work, we give you feedback, we ask you questions about the work, and you have to score an 80 or higher to move forward. If, once again, there are things that we see in your work where you're just not taking faculty feedback, you're just not grasping certain concepts that are core to your understanding and being successful in those upper level courses, we will ask you to do it again, make some edits, etc. So we want to make sure that you're prepared to move forward, that your portfolio is ready to move forward. So that's one way. We also have what we call our design coaches. And so we have 2 right now. We have a male and a female. We also have one that's younger, one that's slightly older. And so they're here 2 nights a week. They're your peers. They're in classes with you, and they hold office hours in our think tank space. And so they are here Tuesday nights and Wednesday nights, for example, this semester for like 3 or 4 hours a night. And you can go in and ask them questions. They can give you help on software. They can give you critique and feedback. And it's just that peer-to-peer engagement that we see as being really, really important to student success. So outside of the classroom, of course, students can always come visit us as faculty, but we also wanted that peer-to-peer time that you can go to and use them. We also have different student groups. We have our AIGA student group. We have our gaming group that's brand new with Tulane students as well. We're looking at forming an interactive design student group as well. And those meet monthly. We also have other sorts of meetups, like Chris was saying. We have big names that we'd like to bring in town at least once a semester, if not twice. Epic Games is coming October 24th, and we can send you information on that. Tickets are free. But Epic Games is going to come and talk about their engine, like I was talking about earlier, how everything works together. They're going to come talk about that, show a little bit about what they do. Epic Games is the creators of Fortnite, etc. So, kind of a big deal. So they're coming. It's going to be a lot of fun. And so we try to bring in people like that. We brought in Jessica Hish last semester. If you're familiar with Jessica's work, if you're not, you should Google her. And so she's a letterer. It's amazing. And so she was here last semester, and etc. So we try to bring in people from all the different tracks, right? So our students have access. So we're doing monthly events, we're doing semesterly events, we've got our design coaches, we have our lower level, upper level reviews. I mean, we have our big kickoff events every semester. So we do a lot of things to build community. We're planning movie nights up here in the labs with popcorn and sodas. It's a lot of fun, right? We try to keep our students engaged, building that sense of community, making sure that you have a core group of your peers and faculty that you feel comfortable going to if you need anything. In school or outside of school related, we're here to help you. And that support system really does help move students along through the process.
Yeah, and one of the things that I think is also a really strong support that you have is the access to the labs. You have access to really high quality equipment and resources to where when we're talking about these design coaches, they're in a lab that you have access to as long as SOPA is open. So that's something where you can go and you can be working towards your goals outside of your classroom time. And it's not dependent on you having to go and find parking somewhere and get to some space and like really reorient your life to be able to do these things. I think there's a certain level of convenience to what you built here, and having that community there to help support you can be really powerful because you got that diversity of experience. You know, we hit upon it earlier. Our design coaches are coming from totally different backgrounds, different perspectives, and that can help you to improve your work because maybe they're giving you a set of eyes that you haven't had before. So some of the other ways that SOPA generally helps to support student success is access to your academic advisors and program directors. So people like Dr. Garcia here, they're in that circle of people who are there trying to help to push you towards your goals, to help to make sure that during those upper and lower level reviews that you're getting constructive feedback that helps you to improve and really reach, you know, whatever career or personal aspirations you have. Some of the other ways that we can also help you to support that success is leveraging some of your prior experience. So I'll talk about it in depth here in just a moment, but credits for prior learning. That's a way where we recognize the work that you've done, whether it be in your professional life, your volunteer services, any of these things that you've gained certifications for. Those are things where we want to make sure that you have credits for it. So maybe if you're someone where you're worried about the time frame of being able to complete all your courses in time, you can leverage that experience and get recognized for it. Some of the other ways that we really help to support you are through our faculty composition. So we've talked about it a little here and there, but our faculty are drawn from people who are working actively in the field. There's no just ivory tower of academia where you're dealing with someone who all they have done is teach. All they have done is one small piece of the field. You're getting access to people who know what the field is going to be like, can help to inform you of what skills are actually needed. And then that other really important piece, it builds your network. So something that we often talk about at Tulane SOPA is that network of alumni, but there's also that network of people who know the quality of work that you're doing here. So when we're bringing in people from the industry to come and help with reviews or be a part of that panel for presentations, that's an opportunity to grow your network. And it grows a network for you that can be people who you're working with, potential future clients, potentially a future employer. So getting yourself out there in front of these people, learning to sell yourself, those are the skills that we can really help you with. And we have our own career advising here. So just next door to us right now, Cynthia Washington is our career advisor for just Tulane SOPA. So she regularly holds events where she can do mock interviews with you. She'll help you with your resume. She'll help to connect you with internships. So you've got that support there where maybe if you're someone where you're going through a career change or you're just looking to get something to help you to build your portfolio. So, you know, finding a career in the field, that's where Cynthia can be really helpful for you. So I think like when you combine all of these pieces, you're getting a really great experience for a student, whether you're someone where you're coming into college cold, you know, you're coming in as an 18-year-old where you just finished high school and you've had that support structure, or whether you're someone where you've been out in the working world and maybe haven't had that support structure in a while. So everyone is getting an opportunity to really engage with these resources, build their portfolio, and get responsive feedback. I can't sell that enough. The responsive feedback is a rarity. You know, when you look at a program like something that's in the hard sciences or hard maths, the responsive feedback is the calculation didn't work. It's change your equation. The responsive feedback you're getting here is going to be personalized to the presentation and the product that you presented. And that's really incredible. So to talk about some of these logistical pieces, the application is actually very easy. So you'll go to sopa.tulane.edu and there's this green apply button at the top. You'll have to create an account there and start, but from there, once you go in and you actually define what term you're applying towards, so spring of 2020, summer of 2020, or beyond, that's when you go in, you'll put in your photocopy of your ID. So it can just be a picture of an unexpired valid ID. and then you'll direct those transcripts to us. So if you're someone where you have been to a dozen different colleges, it still shouldn't take you more than 15 minutes to do this application. It should be something relatively simple and not onerous for you. And then the other piece that I want to make sure that I'm letting you guys know about is your application fee. So typically, if you're applying for an undergrad program, like a bachelor's or a post-baccalaureate certificate, there'll be a $40 application fee. But because you registered for this event and you attended and joined us, we're going to make sure that you don't have to pay that fee. So if it isn't automatically recognized when you go in and start that application, you'll want to reach out to me. Ensure that that $40 that you'd be putting towards the fee can go towards your transcripts, go towards future book purchases, things that are actually going to be able to move you closer to your aspirations. So to give a little bit more depth about those transcript pieces, we can receive electronic or hard copy. We're definitely going to prefer an electronic transcript because it's going to get you your admissions decision much quicker. If you have those unofficial transcripts, you can attach them as well, and we can use those as part of a conditional review process. But ideally, you'll be able to get digital transcripts. They'll be sent to us, and with those, they generally take a few days, but it means that you're really able to get that admissions decision quickly if it's sent digitally. So you'd send it to SOPA records at tulane.edu. And then if you have maybe a hard copy of your transcript that you picked up from the registrar, or the registrar is sending it by physical mail, you can drop that off to us, mail it to us at Tulane SOPA. And that's going to be 800 East Commerce Road, Suite 100 in Harahan, Louisiana. And the zip code for that is 70123. And with those, once you submit an application in full, you should expect an admissions decision back within about 48 or 72 hours. So you're not going to be languishing, waiting to find out if you actually got in. You'll get pretty responsive, quick feedback about if there's anything else that you need or if there's ways that can help you once you get in. So like connecting you to your academic advisor to do transcript reviews and figure out which credits transferred for you, or maybe helping to meet with academic advisor to plan what your first semester is going to be. Those are the sort of things where we'll be able to help guide you on that after you get that admissions decision. So the deadlines that you're going to want to be aware of are primarily our spring and summer application, since fall's already closed. So for spring, you're looking at a January 1 deadline. So as long as your application is submitted by then and we have what we need to start that review process, whether it's unofficial or official transcripts, that'll ensure we can include you in our spring cohort. If you're finishing out classes, or maybe you're worried about being able to get that transcript in time, that's where you might want to plan for that summer grouping. So with summer of 2020, you've got until May 15th, and then classes should start in a couple of weeks right after that. So it's a really great way if you maybe have extra time during the summer to dive in and really get acquainted with your coursework, maybe take on a slightly larger course load than you might during those spring or fall periods. And the last little piece that I want to make sure we talk about is tuition and financial aid. So for fall 2019 and spring 2020, so right now and moving forward, the SOPA undergraduate credits are going to be $474 a credit hour. So for those of you watching about our digital design program, you're pretty much only looking at that undergraduate rate. For financial aid, if you need to get grants, loans, any of that, you're going to fill out that standard FAFSA. So Tulane SOPA students qualify for the exact same sort of financial aid that students anywhere else qualify for. So that's those federal grants, those federal loans. And then we also have discounts available for people in our community, like our active duty military, our veterans, teachers, as well as Orleans and Jefferson Parish employees. So Dr. Garcia was talking earlier about some of our classes. We actually have people who have worked in that K-12 space and are actively still working in it, and they're using that tuition discount to reduce their out-of-pocket costs, or their employer is helping to offset some of this cost because they want you to develop those skills. So there's definitely ways to reduce your out-of-pocket costs. If you're a veteran, you may qualify for our our yellow ribbon scholarships. The yellow ribbon scholarships can really offset that difference between what your GI Bill or your educational benefits cover and the cost of attendance. So it's a good way to effectively reduce your out-of-pocket cost to zero, which is huge. So if maybe you've been working in a related field and you've got that GI Bill that you really want to use, this might be a great opportunity for you to start with maybe a post-baccalaureate certificate if you've got a bachelor's, or maybe coming in and starting a bachelor's if you haven't really taken on that journey yet. So earlier I talked about that credits for prior learning, and I just want to make sure I spell out more specifically what it is for you guys that are watching. So the credits for prior learning is basically where you take a portfolio class where you are assembling and presenting the work that you've done that is within the basically within the credits that you're trying to earn. So an example of that might be if we have people who've completed their EMT and paramedic training, we give them credits towards those electives. Or maybe you're someone where in your previous role you got certifications for certain coding or for certain
Photoshop or Adobe, that kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And those are the things where you go into the portfolio class, write about your experience,
show your work, those sorts of things. Yeah.
Really save yourself some of that money. Because that cost, that portfolio class, it's going to be less than the cost of a 3-credit course, and you can potentially receive up to 24 credits. So that's huge at the undergraduate level. If you're thinking about it in terms of a bachelor's is 120 credits, you're basically taking a quarter of your journey off. And that's huge. You know, it reduces that out-of-pocket cost. So we've got a little bit of question and chat activity that I want to make sure we loop back around to. So Rachel was asking, can we clarify if the student who's returning to college after getting a BA is getting a bachelor or a post-baccalaureate certificate, and how many credits does a post-bac require?
Great. Yeah, so if you're coming back and you already have a bachelor's, you can do that second bachelor's, right? So you would be getting another full bachelor's. Even if you transferred those 60 credits in, you would still be earning another bachelor's degree. Or if you already have a bachelor's, like a BA specifically, and you want to come back and get that post-bac certificate, that's 10 courses. So it's really, I tell students it's 10 classes no matter how you slice it. So if you want to do a little bit of a design and a little bit of interactive, we even have some students that do 2 certificates. So it's 20 classes where they do the design and the interactive, or the interactive and game art. It's kind of funny, but we just don't ever let them go because they're so great, and then they just want to keep taking classes. So sometimes we have students that just take more, but it's a minimum of 10 to complete the certificate. Like I said, you can take more if you'd like. And yes, that would be, the degree awarded would be a post-baccalaureate certificate. It would not be another bachelor's, and it would not be like a graduate. It wouldn't be like a master's degree. These are certifying that you have a new concentration and a new skill set in this specific area. So I hope I clarified that, but feel free to chat us again if you want more clarification. But yes, if you already have a bachelor's in anything, you can come back and get a second bachelor's, and we can, like I said, accept up to 60 credits. Because Tulane's residency requirements state that we have to have at least half of your credits, which would be 60, right, here on site. Like you have to complete those either online or on site through Tulane. So we can take up to 60 credits from whatever your other program was. Or you could do the post-bac, which is the 10 credits. So you have all of them.
So there's actually a couple of related questions here that I think fit really well with what we're just talking about. Sure. And one of those is, can you specialize in multiple concentrations?
Yeah, so you can. So for undergraduate, I mean, for the post-bac or the bachelor's?
So
I'll talk about it for both, I guess.
So Katie, since we're not sure exactly which one you mean, let's go ahead and
we'll just do both. Yeah. So if you're doing the bachelor's program and you want experience in, let's say, 2 different concentrations, let's just say
post-bac.
Post-bac, okay. So if you're doing the post-bac, and yes, you can. So the post-bac, once again, it's only 10 classes, right? So we want to make sure, like, whatever your career goals are after you finish the post-bac, like, you'll be able to actually have that content knowledge for that career goal. So you and I will sit down, we'll look at all the courses, we'll figure out, like, where do you want to be after graduation, after you finish the post-bac, and then we'll say, okay, let's map out the courses that would be, like, directly applicable to your career goals. So it could be 6 design classes and 4 interactive classes, or vice versa, right? It really just depends, but I want to make sure, because a lot of our upper division classes are building off of, like, the middle to lower division classes, so it's really hard to bounce from, like, a design 1, then you take some interactive classes and you're trying to get into design 3. Well, there's like 4 classes in between there, you know?
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to do a lot of 2 or 3 different ones, and that's when I was saying earlier, some of our students just get 2 different certificates because they really, like, need that concentration and that training in depth, right? A deep dive into those 2 areas. Some schools have professional certificates that are like 3 classes, you know, which is not a lot. And I don't know how you really do a whole lot or learn a whole lot in 3 classes. So that's why we have 10. So we want to make sure you're getting a deep dive into those areas. So yes, you can definitely pursue 2. We can sprinkle a little bit of each in there, but at the end of the day, we need to make sure you've got enough substantive courses and projects in your portfolio to get you to your career goal. So it would just sort of be on a case-by-case basis, but we could sit down and look at that.
So for a typical student who's taking the post-bac, what kind of timeline are you looking at with the pacing of having some of those foundational courses that you have to take as going from 1 to 2 to 3?
Yeah. So for the post-bac, typically our students are doing it in 2 years. Is about right, or less. I mean, it also depends how many you can take per semester. So if you could take like 2 classes per semester, that's basically 5 semesters, right? So it would be like fall, spring, summer, fall, spring, and you're done. If you could take 3 per semester, it just really, like, once again, depends. But I would say a maximum of 2 years. It's hard to tell because we have a lot of post-bac students, and like I said, they just keep hanging around because we keep adding new classes, and they're like, oh, I just want to stay another semester. So I think they could have done it in like 2 years, but they're taking like 14 classes instead of 10. Anyway, it's pretty funny, but I think 2 years is safe. It's a safe bet. Yeah.
Seems like a bit of a champagne problem there, where you want to take more and more classes because you enjoy the content and what the offerings are. So if you're someone where going to school is going to be your primary obligation, you can get your pacing done a little bit quicker. But the other thing is, you're going to have homework, you're going to have projects. Don't set yourself up to be in a position where you're taking too many courses and don't have a balance between school and work and life.
I wouldn't take more than 3, honestly, studios, any of our courses at any given time. The outside of class time that it takes, to work on this stuff, it's, pretty substantial, right? I mean, it's not horrible, but it's time, it's 3 to 5 hours a week outside of class, I would say minimum, So I would say 2 classes is a safe bet, but if you wanted to push and do 3, you totally could.
So that kind of hits on some of the other questions that we had. Sure. One of which is about when classes are actually offered. So they're wondering about, like, are there morning and daytime classes?
Yes, there are, So we have some courses start at 9. So we have classes start at 9, at noon, at 3, and at 6. So, and online, right? So this is how it works. Because we only have so many, we have 3 brand new state-of-the-art labs, which you can see new pictures I just loaded on our website and on our Facebook page. So if you're working full-time, for example, and you want to take night classes, well, we have 3 labs, but let's say we have, 20 classes in a semester, we can't offer all of them at night. Like, mathematically, we just don't have enough time. So the way that we run it is, if we offer a class at night one semester, we'll offer it during the day the next semester, so that day class we offered this semester, we can put it night the next, right? So we're sort of like flip-flopping every semester, and that includes summer. And we have a course rotation guide that I could share with you if you're interested, that says like what semesters we're offering what. That way you can kind of see. And then, of course, the online classes, like the copywriting, etc., history of graphic design is going online. Anyway, those other courses, the interactive technologies coding class will be online. Those are at your own pace, with once every other week what we call synchronous sessions, where you have to log on at a certain time to do a live session, where it's maybe a critique or a lecture that's really important to you to do live. But those times will be posted, so you'll know ahead of time. And those are required to, faculty are required to offer that live session at noon and at 6 p.m. So there'll be a 1-hour session from 12 to 1 and a 1-hour session from 6 to 7. So you could pop into either that work for you. And so this is intrinsically built into all of our design online classes to make sure you're getting that face-to-face time. We can do live critique. It's a really fun model we're trying out for digital design. So I hope that answers your question. But yes, you can definitely take classes during the day, at night, like, we've got them running all the time. But yes, if you did need something exclusively at night or exclusively during the day, depending if you have kiddos, etc., we do offer classes all the time.
Yeah, I think that rotation is really important. It's really a thoughtful way for students to not be left behind.
Yeah.
Because if you're looking at a really traditional school, you might only have
a lot of daytime
set
classes,
number of classes that are based upon professor availability, but we have a wide group of faculty to draw from. So being able to flip between a day and an evening course, one session, gives you the ability to really take classes on timelines that work for you. And one of the related questions that we had about that was about when are our labs actually open for students to use?
Okay,
So
yeah.
one of the things you did mention earlier was that there are 3 dedicated classroom labs here.
Yeah.
And so when classes are not in session,
Mm-hmm.
those are spaces that you have complete access to.
Yeah.
And then additionally on top of that, you have another lab space that I've never seen completely full.
No, yeah, we have it open all the time. And it's the same computers, the same softwares we're using. And it has 15 machines in it now. And so anytime outside of class, there's also a green screen in that room.
Yeah.
We also have a brand new printer lab, which I wish we could like take you in there and show you. It's so awesome. It's next door. And so we have new state-of-the-art printers. We have a huge large format printer that we just obtained. I think there's some pictures of that on our social media if you go on Facebook or Instagram for Tulane SOPA Digital Design. And so all that's open access. So it's from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And then on Friday from 9 a.m. to 5. And then on Friday, right?
6 p.m. actually.
6
We have
Okay, great.
some classes off for this semester until 6.
That would be my problem. Yes, that's true. That would be our classes. And then on Saturdays, it's open from 9 to noon. So we have access all the time. We're actually working on, I don't think I've told you this yet, we're actually working on a laptop program where we are going to give students, and this is like top secret information I'm putting on the web, but we're working on being able for students to basically finance through their financial aid or purchase, whatever, a MacBook Pro or equivalent Dell for gaming, right? With fully loaded software technology, everything that they would need. And so we're thinking of it as like a kit, right? Like a started kit. And you would be able then to have your own laptops where you could bring it to class. You have some students to bring it to class and use them. But we're working on that. So we're hoping that that'll be in place for this coming spring. If not, we're going to launch it in the summer. So it's like really close. We're just working on pricing because we want to make sure we get a price break to students.
Yeah.
And so that will once again come with fully loaded Creative Suite, et cetera. Also something for student support I wanted to bring up too. Is that we have lynda.com. And if you guys are familiar with lynda.com, but it's now purchased by LinkedIn Learning. And so we have subscriptions for all of our students. So it's automatic once you enroll in the program. And that gives you access to thousands of videos, training videos. So if you're in class, because we only meet one day in person in class on ground, and then the second day you can do tutorials, you may have a little assignment or something that's due. You always have access to your faculty, your design coaches, but also our LinkedIn Learning account where you can see tips and tricks so that way you're never stalled or behind and you can always move forward. It's really important.
So the last couple of questions we had were, Katie was just wondering, how many credits is a typical class? So that's really going to depend on what sort of class you're taking. For digital design, though, we're looking at a 3-credit course. Yeah,
they're all 3 credits. And so you're like 474, right? Times 3, right? So that's how much a class would cost. So quick math, can we do that? 4 times 3 is 12. So it's about almost 1,600 because you have course fees added on there, and those fees go to like all your technology, your LinkedIn Learning account. All the printing is free for you. So we have beautiful printers. You don't pay for any of that out of pocket. Like it's all included. And a lot of our courses also offer ebooks. So that way, and our professors can give you great handouts, et cetera. So you're not paying like hundreds of dollars a semester in books for our program. So it's about $1,600. Think about it that way per class, per semester, because it's $474 per credit, 3 credits plus the fee, the technology fee. So it's about $1,600. You can just think of it that way per class.
Yeah, and if you look at programs of similar renown, this is actually a great price point. You're walking out of here with, if you're doing that full bachelor's, you're getting a bachelor's degree from Tulane University. There's no commas, there's no ands, there's nothing that's some subscript hidden under there. So when you are out in the professional world, no one has to know that you got an education at a better price point from somewhere that's a world-renowned university.
Yeah, the way I describe it to students and parents is that, we are, in SOPA, we house applied programs, right? So whereas a medical school or the law school, you might become a lawyer or a Juris Doctorate. In our school here, you're becoming a paralegal, right? So we have the applied program. So this is not a fine arts degree. This is a digital design degree. So these are all the applied programs housed within SOPA.
So The last question that I just want to make sure that we get through is Diamond was asking about if there's a portfolio required for the game or animation track. And the portfolio is part of that student experience. So everyone is going to be creating a portfolio.
Yeah, so students always ask this. So you don't have to submit a portfolio to get into the school. That's a very common question. And I think that should be something we should include on our website, right? Because it is kind of confusing for some people. So you don't have to submit a portfolio. However, the portfolio, when you get here and we meet face to face, that will show me, okay, you have a skill set in this area. Maybe we can help you opt out of one course. So instead of taking, let's say, a lower level foundations course in whatever, we can add on an upper level course somewhere else. So we're not necessarily giving you credit for that course. We're just saying you obviously have skill sets in foundations of art, drawing, color. So instead of having to take that class, you can use those 3 credits and take this other upper division course or an elective course that you're interested in. So that's where the portfolio really comes in handy. So yes, you are more than welcome to send me a portfolio. I would love to take a look at it, but it's not required for admission. I'll put it that way.
So we've run through all of our questions, and we're also at the end of our time session.
Okay.
So I just want to make sure
we can talk all night. We can go all night.
Exactly.
I mean,
I want to make sure I put a hard stop on it because I know that those of you who are interested in the program, we've given a lot of information to you tonight. So if you need a little bit of time to digest it or you have follow-up questions, make sure to contact me at cloyd3@tulane.edu or give me a call directly at 504-314-2893. I can connect you to the amazing resources we have here, like Dr. Garcia. And that way we can help you to get through that evaluation piece a little bit quicker. Or if you're ready to start, we can make sure you get that application waiver applied, and then you're able to really get started on your journey. Great. So thank you, Dr. Garcia, for your time tonight.
Of course,
and thank you to everyone who participated tonight. We really appreciate your questions and engagement.
Yes.
Bye, folks.
Bye.